So before we get started, I'd just like to clear something up, and an audio editor's note of sorts. In true Tryforce professionalism, you know us, we are priding ourselves on just how professional and technologically sound we are and just how much we've got it together. I forgot to record my microphone for the first 10 minutes of the interview, so I'm going to sound a little weird. It really is a testament to how loud I am, and I'm sorry for y'all's ears in the 3 years we've been doing this show, but you can still hear me. It's a little in the background, a little crunchy, but I had to do a lot of work to get this to work, but you'll hear the interview. It's going to sound a little weird for the first 10 minutes. After that, it's smooth sailing. So I really hope you enjoy this. This was a lot of fun. And, well, enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the Tryforce podcast, where we talk about video games, we talk about movies, anime now, apparently.
Yeah, we're fucking multimedia at this point.
That alone is going to get us copyright.
Watch the show. No.
It's the Tryforce.
Colton.
Yes.
Colton. It happened.
Wait,
It happened.
how'd you get in my house?
Don't worry about it. I just stole a key. It happened.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
What happened?
Remember a year ago when I
I
was
didn't
like,
do it.
No, listen to me. Remember a year ago when I was like, I'm gonna message that voice actor and I'm gonna get an interview, and then I didn't because I had anxiety.
Yeah, yes. Did you, wait, you did it?
I did it, and we have a Zoom meeting in now.
Ah!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tryforce podcast. It is me, your host Rayne, who is giving Colton an actual crisis
Jesus Christ.
by only letting him know things 20 seconds
minutes,
before we do them.
5 minutes of warning.
Anyway,
Fucking technology of gods. Like, I just need 5 minutes to set up.
anyway, today I hinted at this. All right, stop touching shit.
Oh, no, we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Okay,
We're good.
okay.
We're here. We're here. Everything's set up. I hinted at this on my stream, and we hinted at this a little bit on Colton's stream, that we had something really big coming. And for everyone who knows me, I was away from the podcast a lot last year. I had a lot going on. So as my big comeback to the podcast, I set us up with an interview with one of my favorite voice actors of all time, Vincent Corazza, who is the voice of, you would know him from Sailor Moon. He's the voice of Tuxedo Mask.
Absolutely.
He has done other voice works. He's in Resident Evil. He's done
He's
commercials.
Carlos.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But the reason that he's my favorite voice actor is because he is the voice of my favorite character of all time in of all media, Zexion and Dienzo in Kingdom Hearts.
When you texted me that, I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I'll ever see this level of energy out of Rayne ever again. So we got to get this on record.
Yeah, I was a mess, and then I wasn't a mess, and then I was a mess again, and then I wasn't a mess again. For 2 weeks, I think I was really annoying. I'm very sorry, Colton. I was probably the most annoying person, because I would be
No,
like,
not even. This was
I'd be
so
like-
exciting.
I'd be like, oh my God, he answered me. Holy shit, like this is really happening. And I'd be excited, and then immediate backtrack, I'd be like, oh my God, what if I'm an idiot, and what if he hates me, and what if this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, and what if he hates the questions I ask? And then Colton's just like, Rayne, do you ever shut the fuck up?
I'm like, Rayne, he's a dude. He's just a dude.
Everybody
with a microphone.
Everybody and their mothers has been like, Rayne, he's just some guy. And you know what?
Very talented dude, but he's just a dude.
But he is, in fact, just some guy who just so happens to voice my favorite character in media. Anyway, we did it.
Yeah.
We did that, and you guys are about to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. How'd it feel?
It was,
This is fresh off the interview.
Yeah, I need you to know I'm so sorry if you saw me just bouncing up and down in my seat, because he, at one point during this interview, which you will all hear, he started doing the Zexion voice, and I was just like, oh my God, it's happening, this is like real life.
It's not a drill.
I'm sitting here in my nobody dress, my Zexion tattoo on my arm. Oh my God, he asked me for a picture of that. Now I have to send that to him, or I feel like I'm gonna look like an asshole being like, I have the Zexion tattoo, and then I don't send it. But I was so nervous going into this, and then immediately feel like I found my groove, and I was like, I'm just talking to a guy.
That's how it is. That is how it is.
And that's not like an insult. That's just like he is a guy that gets up every day and he works the same as I do and the same as
Absolutely.
you do and the same as all of us do.
It's really comforting to know that he's just as confused about Kingdom Hearts as I am.
Oh yeah, that was really good. I'm really
I don't feel like as much of an idiot now.
him sitting there. I didn't play the games, but they told me the story and I don't
I
know
was
what's happening.
I just love the idea. I was literally in them and I have no idea what's happening.
And honestly, valid. I'm like the resident Kingdom Hearts nut. I'm, MLG pro in the Kingdom Hearts circuit, and I still will sit there some days and be like, they never explained that. I'll never know what the fuck's happening. They've got 6 more games coming out, and I'm still just like,
Oh, sweet God.
Yep, okay. I don't know what's happening, but all right.
So, what do you say we get cracking on this?
Here we go.
I'm so excited about this because I saw I've been a Sailor Moon fan for a very long time. And, like, my fiance heard that we were doing this interview, and she said, and I quote, "Please do not end this interview without asking him if Tuxedo Mask actually did anything in the anime."
That's a valid question and valid point. I mean, he was a master rose thrower, but other than that, and of course, that is a necessary skill in life. We all throwing roses precisely is exactly what most people aspire to. It's it's a goal.
That's my dream job.
I'd love to be able to do that as I enter a room. Oh my goodness. Rayne, would you like to officiate and start this off?
Yeah, I guess so. I have to do an intro, don't I? I have to be a functional member of society today?
Yeah, we could do that.
You do that later. I'm so tired. I'm also so nervous. My dream interview is happening, and I'm like, time to cry.
Not at all. I'm so glad to meet you guys.
Yay.
I love to hear from fans, especially of Zexion and Ienzo. That's it. I get them, but not super.
Yeah, no.
Super.
I'll start off by saying he is my favorite character in all of media is Zexion and Ienzo. So in everything, top number one spot. So
literally, Rayne was in my phone as Zexion for like 3 years. So
it's true.
I've rarely come across that. I mean, I get like people who love Zexion and love Ienzo, but to say that's their favorite character, that's awesome. Thank you.
Their love for it actually got me to play Kingdom Hearts, and like
what was that?
Like it was like it's a beautiful game.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a cool game. Yeah, I mean, I've never actually played it myself, but whenever we record, I get to see all the animation. I've seen the cut scenes and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a really, really cool game. It's beautifully done. And I mean, who hasn't been influenced by Disney at some point in their life,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So to see those worlds mesh together in such a weird story and interesting, kind of layered thing, it's really cool. It's a very cool thing. It's nostalgic for, anyone who's, even in their 80s, 90s, and then young kids can easily access it because it's got newer characters and it's still, it's kind of awesome to see a world like that. It's kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where things layer and meld, and that's always cool.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's such a cool game, and like to have one character that, like, to have the original characters in the game that like are also part of Disney's world and also part of Final Fantasy's world. It still throws me off to see Cloud, Strife, and Mickey in the same picture. Like, it still like freaks me out a little bit, but like
no, they're pretty much the same. Obviously,
yeah,
I've never
absolutely.
seen 2 characters more similar than Mickey Mouse and Cloud Strife in my life.
Oh my goodness! Like, it's such a cool universe, and like to hear how amazing the performances in this game are. Like,
the nuanced performances are cool. Yeah,
all you guys sound like you're having such a good time, and that's like, it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will say about voiceover work, I always feel like I have a great time because it's so I mean, unlike when you do film and TV or theater, you are yourself. I mean, you can put on clothes, you can put on prosthetics and makeup and wigs and things like that to make you feel like you're something else, but it's your body that is dictating what you're going to present to an audience. And the great thing about animation and video games is that you can be anything. You can be, it's endless, the possibilities of where you can go and your voice allows you to go. And so that's kind of cool. It's one of my favorite things about doing animation and voiceover in general is that, you can be some crazy alien, a million years from now or a million light years away or whatever. And, you can be a god, you can be a villain, you can be all kinds of crazy stuff that you would never physically be able to play. You can play stuff like that, but then again, it's wigs and hair and makeup and costumes and things like that.
The keyboard doesn't actually do that in real life, so it's like it's cool to see you doing it in the game.
Exactly. I'm crying. I'm dead on the inside right now. Just you. It's your fault.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm having a great time. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, go for it, dude.
I'm living right now my best life. I just need it to be known. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me right now. I'm like starstruck because I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be asking questions, but I'm like, ooh, yay. Me trying not to be like, hello.
You got this. You're good.
I'm going to actually start with real questions that I had now instead of just sitting here like an idiot. But you were talking about acting because you actually started out as like an on-screen actor.
I mean, that's an interesting point. Not really, to be quite honest. I mean, I was more, when I was a little kid, I started out on stage doing plays, school plays and stuff like that. And then I went to university. I went to Ryerson University in Toronto and studied theater. And it was in second year that we had a class called Microphone Technique, taught by Roland Parliament, who he was my teacher in university. Actually, one of my fellow classmates, who's the voice of Sailor Moon, is Linda Ballantyne. And also one of the guest teachers that Roland brought in was Susan Roman. So there's a lot of like melding of worlds
cool.
Amazing.
In terms of my career. And so in second year, we had this microphone technique class. And I remember thinking, microphone technique, what is that? Like how to hold a microphone? I was like, I didn't understand, but it was all about voiceover and performing on a microphone as opposed to performing on a stage or on screen or TV. And I just instantly took to it, just loved it. In fact, I remember our class was a very strong class. Quite a few of my classmates that graduated from Ryerson in the program went on to do voiceover and had great careers. And I fell in love with it. I remember as a little kid, every Saturday morning I would watch, the Gummy Bears, the Smurfs, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo is like my favorite, all-time favorite cartoons. The Flintstones. I'm old, so I go pre-anime.
They were still on when we were kids too. Scooby-Doo, I grew up on that.
Yep, exactly. Flintstones, all of it.
And I used to imitate all those characters. I'd watch TV and watch cartoons and just be like, I loved those characters and those voices. And then when we had animation class or microphone, it was called microphone technique class, which is what threw me off. I remember in second year going to it thinking, how can you have an entire class for a whole, multiple semesters about microphone? I was like, I don't get it. But it was animation, acting for in front of a microphone, which is a completely huge world that there's all kinds of techniques, all kinds of skills. So we did that, and I think that was really instrumental in helping me become a successful voiceover performer. Because by the time I graduated from university, I had a real awesome foundation in the proper technique, the ways to do things in front of a mic, but also the ability to explore and create in class for, the couple years that we were in school. And so you get to discover all kinds of sounds and play in a safe environment. And so that when you go out professionally into the business, I had this, arsenal of, ideas and things that I could bring whenever I would go to an audition, as opposed to some people that start out in the biz. A lot of times the first time they'll try something out is in an audition, or they'll get the script and they'll have like maybe 24 hours before. Whereas I'd be like, oh, I got this character. This is what I did, 10 years ago, or what I did 3 years ago in class, or you know what I mean? And so I was able to play around with that. And then, and then just my own, lifetime of experience of like imitating characters and things like that. So I would say that, yes, when I first graduated, a lot of what I initially did was film, TV, and theater. And so that's where I kind of initially made my name. But right out of university, I booked the very first voiceover audition I went to, which was a MasterCard commercial. I think my first animation was Dance in the Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was the youngest cast member. I think I was 22 at the time. I just turned 22, or I was turning 22 or something like that. And then I played the oldest character in the show. And I remember the producers in Los Angeles didn't believe that I was that young. And so this is 30 years ago. So this is pre-Zoom and being able to do stuff like this. So, when we were in session, somebody brought out a camera and took a photo and sent it to the producers in LA, because they were like, what? This kid's 22 years old and he's doing this 80-year-old man. And so I've always kind of juggled all aspects of those different sides of acting: voiceover, on camera, theater. And I feel incredibly blessed because all of them really do. The ability to find things in voiceover acting sometimes gives me creative ideas that I can bring to my theater acting or my film and TV acting, and vice versa. Sometimes you're on stage and you do something, or you do something on camera and you go, oh yeah, that physically doing that helps to, inspire your imagination, so that when you're acting in front of a microphone where you have to be static, and even though you can move a little bit, like if I'm running in front of a microphone to create the sound as if I'm running, I'm going to kind of imitate that sound in front of a mic, so you get that authenticity, but you're not really running. But by doing those kinds of things on film and TV, you can be like, oh, I remember that situation. I remember what that felt like. And so now I can really, delve deeper into the reality of what that would sound like through my voice. And the more detail, the more you can bring those kinds of aspects and depth to a performance, the more layers it brings to the audience playing the game or listening to the commercial or watching, a stage performance. So I've actually always juggled all of it. So I didn't, even though I know a lot of people sometimes think that I started out on film, TV, or theater, but it was actually, I've kind of always had my hand in all those different pots throughout my career.
That's awesome. That's a perfect way to describe it too. I was a theater kid when I was in high school, and I did a few voiceover auditions and stuff like that. And the way you described it is perfect, where it's you have to be, you have to have some kind of an acting background. Your body has to know what this feels like before you go into an audition. It's really funny because you said it's some people just go in, they try stuff at auditions, and I'm sitting here that was me, wasn't it?
You getting called out on live right now.
I was that feels not great.
But you know what? Listen, it happens even to professionals like me that have been doing this for 30 years. I've sometimes walked into an audition, you've got some ideas, casting director goes, that's not quite what we want. Can you try something else? And you go, oh gosh,
I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah, but that's part of the beauty too of being an artist is, I always like to call it, it's sort of like acting is like Robin Hood with his quiver of arrows. I have like just tons of different ideas, and so when somebody says something, I go, oh, right, okay, that's like this. I'll pull out this arrow, you know what I mean? I'll fire this one, and that's the way I kind of always look at it, is that you have this, arsenal of ideas and things that you've done, and you meld them. If somebody says, we've got this villain character, and I might in my mind go, oh, okay, well, that's similar to like the Zexion sound with the hushed kind of tones, and then every so often I'll dial in, a maniacal like, laugh and like go up here, and you play around with ideas, and so the more you do, the better you get at it too. Experience is you'll never, you can't, no one can be prepared for everything. And so, it's the more you do, the better you get, the more ideas, the more arsenal you have of things that work and that resonate with people.
Wow.
Rayne, your next question?
Stare at me. Oh my god. No, so speaking of voice acting, you were the voice of Tuxedo Mask, which is originally where I first heard you voice acting ever. And I didn't even watch Sailor Moon that much, but Tuxedo Mask, I feel like everybody my age had a crush on Tuxedo Mask.
My fiance included. I told her I was doing this, and she's like, Tuxedo Mask.
Literally, my fiance being like, Tuxedo Mask? And I'm like, Tuxedo Mask. Yeah.
I remember thinking when I was a kid, I'm like, I would love to just be able to wear a full 3-piece suit, a top hat, and a cape everywhere I go. Like, that's
and
awesome.
the mask. And the mask. You gotta have the mask and roses.
It's so what a look. I would do that today. Like, are you kidding me?
I'm showing up to your wedding as Tuxedo Mask now.
Yeah, that's how I gotta get married, in a giant top hat and a cape.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
But when you voiced Tuxedo Mask, you had, I believe, and I could have my information wrong, but I think I'm correct that there was someone who voiced him first, and then you took over that voice.
Actually, there was two people. Reno Romano was the first Tuxedo Mask, Darien, then Toby Proctor, and then I took over after that and completed the rest of the deep version that was done with all those movies. Both good friends of mine, all Toronto boys. We knew each other through the biz, and our paths have crossed many times. Great guys. I don't really know. I'll be honest. I have no idea why. I think with Reno, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Reno moved to California after the first season. I don't remember exactly if that's the exact timing of him moving, or if he was moving, and so they thought we should, make a replacement there. I have no idea why they switched to me after Toby. Toby did an awesome job. He's a great guy. Just one of the sweetest guys on the planet. So, and actually I can't remember if it was first season. Yeah, I believe it was first season that I originally started as Alan in the Doomtree series. It was Anne and Alan, those characters that I originally started on Sailor Moon as. And then that's where I met Nicole, who was sort of the main producer of the show. Roland Parliament, who taught me in university, he was our director on the show. So he hired me. I have a feeling maybe he had something to do with it too, because he knew I was good at the Rhythma Band. It's called Rhythma Band. I don't know if you've ever spoken to anybody else that has done the Sailor Moon series or those kinds of animations, but we used to record using this crazy thing called Rhythma Band, where there'd be a camera in front of us or a TV screen showing us what was happening in the scene, but we'd be reading. There was this crazy band that was like long. It was like 12 feet long, and the words would go across, and there would be a line, and whenever the words would hit the line, that's when we would speak them.
I've always wondered how that worked.
Yeah. Oh, there's tons of different ways to dub. There's tons of different ways to do dubbing. I wouldn't say tons, but there's a few different ways of the quality way to do dubbing. But the Rhythma Band, I got to be honest, it's one of the most precise, one of the coolest things to do. It takes all the guesswork out. Like, if you, for example, if you're saying, let's say the line was, wait, stop, don't, and you have to like scream the don't at the end. They would literally write it out, like wait would be short, and then stop. So you'd be like watching, you'd be like, wait, stop, and then you'd see out of the corner of your eye, you can see the long don't coming up. So you'd be like, no, and then as soon as the T would hit, you'd stop, and then it's precise so that it matches exactly your mouth being open, closing at the right time to match those lip flaps.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And what's great too is you can move fast through things. Like whereas some of the other styles of dubbing, you need to watch the scene a few times to sort of go, okay, get the rhythm, get the feel, get some certain stuff. Because a lot of times it'll be just like a 3 beat. You'll hear like a beep, 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 and then you start talking and you do the scene. Then you're reading off a script, and so you're trying to match, but you'd have to watch the scene a few times to get a feeling for the rhythm of what the character is doing. Whereas with the Rhythmoband, you could watch a scene once. Like you can, and what's amazing too is our peripheral. It's amazing how our brains are so fast, like supercomputers, where you could be watching the scene take place on the TV screen and sort of also watching the Rhythmoband at the same time to get a feel for it. I could watch that once and then immediately go, let's go in for a take, and sometimes nail it on the first take because the Rhythmoband takes you don't have to remember, like I don't have to go, oh, how long do I hold the don't or no, or you don't have to remember that feel, like is it 2 seconds or whatever, you just watch the band and go, no, and as soon as the last O hits the line, you go, right, stop, on to the next words, on to the next, take a breath here, take it, and it's just, which is why it's called Rhythmoband, because it's very rhythmic. It's very musical. It's very, if you have a good background in music or you play music, whatever, it makes total sense. It's like sight reading from a reading music and singing or playing an instrument and stuff,
Oh yeah.
So it's a fabulous way to do stuff. I mean, we would knock out, when we were doing the movies, knock out just pages and pages of stuff in a couple hours, which was amazing. And so what's funny too, though, is because of that, I often had no clue. Sometimes I'd walk out of a day of recording, like you do 6 hours, I'd walk out and be like, I have no idea what the story is, no idea what I just recorded. You know the character, I know the voice, I know his attitudes, I knew the kinds of things that you're doing, and you just be like rocking out that stuff. Like we just, and so then I go to conventions or talk to people, and then they'll ask me questions like, in episode 60, when you did this, and I'd be like, I have no recollection, no idea. It also was like 25 years ago. So now at this point, I'm like, episode 60? There was an episode 60? Like,
you're lucky I still remember the character's name. Look.
Yeah.
We're lucky we made it this far.
That's so crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah. But yeah, so Reno was the first tuxedo mask, Toby was the second, and then I took over for the rest of the original 90s series of Sailor Moon. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And like I said, I have no idea what the decision making was. I don't remember any of it. I just so happy to have been part of that universe, and also to get to work with so many, like Sabrina Gurdovich, who went to Ryerson. She was either 1 or 2 years ahead of me. She played Anne, which was my sister, with Alan and Anne in the Doomtree saga, that part of the series. And Katie Griffin and I are old friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did a few commercials together back in Toronto, like on-camera commercials. We actually appeared in some commercials together, and I've known her for years. Tony Daniels, David Fraser, Linda Valentine. I mean, just endless people. One of my first acting mentor when I was a kid, and the first person that really was my main teacher before I went to university was Louis Beaumander in Toronto. Fabulous director and just an incredible person who was such an influence on my career. He ended up taking over in the final couple movies and last season as the audio director. And so I got to work with him professionally.
That's so cool.
Yeah, Sailor Moon has a lot of, not only is it nostalgic and awesome, just the fan base, the influence that Sailor Moon had, the first big anime to kind of like resonate and like hit in North America.
It's one of the big three. It was Gundam, Dragon Ball, and Sailor Moon. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Pokemon too, I would say would be up there.
Yeah.
how did I forget that? Good Lord.
Right. But if I'm not mistaken, I might, I don't really remember all the details, but I remember Sailor Moon, I believe, was the first sort of like Japanese anime that came over that was a late night sort of, more, when you see the original that was aired in Japan, that was a 9 o'clock at night for adults show. And then all of a sudden we are dubbing it and it's airing at like after school at 3:30, 4 o'clock for kids. I remember when Nicole, our producer, showed us, like, we had been recording for a while and suddenly she was like, oh, we've got footage from the actual show that airs in Japan. And they showed it to us and all of us were like, what? This is not at all this is not what we're doing. Like, this is a completely different show. And amazing to think that they could edit it in such a way and then rewrite the stories and, so that, still staying true to the, I would say 90% of the storyline, but changing things so that it was more a younger, tween kind of after school audience as opposed to, the original Sailor Moon airing at like 9, 10 o'clock at night in Japan, fully for adults. Like, not at all. Yeah, so that was kind of cool. And then the melding of worlds, like my professional career, my university, like so many of the actors involved in that show I had known for years. Like I said, Roland was my teacher in university. Lewis was my mentor, when I was 15 years old. My very first acting coach was Louis Bowmander, really, and so to have all those circles just overlap, it's I have such a affinity and such a love for what Sailor Moon has meant to me personally.
Oh, without
and
a
then
doubt.
I love seeing how the fans react to it and how much it's meant to them. It's a cool show.
So I want to hear more about the Kingdom Hearts thing because I'm new to it.
I was gonna be like, well, good, because a lot of my questions are about Zexion.
Hey, I'll show you something quickly. A really awesome guy from England made me this this cool. Look at that! Isn't that awesome?
I am obsessed.
That's so cool. I love how oh my god!
I'm so far away from the camera, but I would show you my lexicon tattoo because I have a tattoo of the book.
I mean, look at that! That's so cool with all the detail that he did.
Beautiful.
His name's Ben. He lives in the UK in England. He's reached out to me and he was like, I want to make this for you. And he's like, I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts. And then shipped it all the way from England. I was like, it sits in my living room. It's like one of the coolest. I've gotten some awesome fan stuff. This is pretty, the detail on this is just fantastic. And the fact that he shipped it all the way from me, he does these things. He makes them for people. You can purchase them from him. He has a website. I'd have to look up his website.
We definitely want to plug that guy. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it's really, look at that detail. That's one of the cool,
gorgeous
fan gifts I've ever gotten. Yeah.
That's stunning.
Yeah.
Thinking about my giant lexicon I have at home. I'm like, ooh, I have his book at home. I have the book tattooed on my body. Yeah.
Oh yeah, You have his book tattoo?
Yeah, I do. I have a tattoo of it. I'm doing a whole Kingdom Hearts sleeve, but I had to get Zexion's first because I am.
You have to take a photo and send that to me when it's done. I love to see it. I've got tattoos. I'm getting some new ones done. I've got a few. I've got a dragon.
Nice.
I'm covered, so big mood.
Yeah.
But
I'm planning my third one soon. So
and then there's me. All right, tattoo 25. Let's go. That's what you do. All right, sorry that I'm looking at my phone. That's just
no,
my
go for
questions
it.
Are.
Do it.
Obviously, you voiced my favorite boy, Zexion, and because I know you've done like other video games and stuff, but what was it like to audition for that? Because I feel like that's, in my mind, just I can't even imagine because that seems wild to me.
The auditioning process, I will say this, the auditioning process for all the stuff that I've ever done, except for theater and film and TV, which requires you to be physically there and stuff. one of my best friends, one of my closest buddies back in LA. He has this saying that he's like, when you walk into a voiceover audition, you do it and then flush it, walk away, because we do. I mean, you do so many. And back in the day, like 20 years ago, when I first moved to Los Angeles, my wife and I, and I sometimes audition like 50 auditions a day. You know what I mean? And
goodness.
so I wouldn't even remember. You know what I mean? Like literally the next day, 24 hours later, I'd be like, I auditioned for that? Like, what was it again? Can somebody send me the file so I can remember what I did? They want to hire me. I'm like, oh, okay. What did I do again? Now the business is very different now. Of course, it's not as much work. Not as, like I said, I'm not even kidding you. Like I would walk into DPN is my agency in Los Angeles. And the head of the agency, Jeff Danis, who's a legend in the biz. I mean, you'd walk in and Jeff would hand you like literally like a stack of pages, and you'd just be there from like 9 a.m. till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just recording auditions. Or sometimes you'd even be like, I got to stop. I got to run to a session. I got to now drive like an hour to Santa Monica to do a voiceover session, and then I'll come back and finish recording like later today.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And now it's, I mean, if I do 50 auditions in, 3 months now, that'd be impressive. It's just the business is very, very different now. But auditioning for Zexion and Ienzo, I do remember it because, I remember getting the script and thinking, oh, this seems a little more realistic, more realism as opposed to sometimes, a more elevated sound, or a more exaggerated sound, I should say, not elevated, exaggerated sound, especially for villains. And because in the first time where my character's introduced, it's Organization 13, so he's he's Zexion with the hello, my Lucia, or that kind of raspy sort of manipulative character
like
voice,
snaky kind of voice.
Yeah, which I loved. And so I remember doing the audition and thinking, oh, he's more cerebral, he's more contemplative. So he's not a villain who's physical. He's the kind of guy who, and what's interesting about him too, he's not he's not necessarily like villain in traditional villain way, right? He's kind of a guy that pulls strings, and so the Ienzo part wasn't really introduced to me until the later games, which is always fun to play when you get to go back and forth. Then in the latest installment, I mean, I remember doing those scenes where like Goofy's in the background, I'm at the console and stuff, and like, and then like, or Mickey, he's like there going, Zexion, Ienzo, like, and those are, and what was so crazy to me, which is what I mentioned earlier in the interview when we started this interview, is that for me, I used to imitate those characters when I was a little kid.
Oh yeah.
And then here I am playing this original character with these like iconic voices that I grew up that were so influential to me, or like Daffy, like on the background and stuff, you know what I mean? You're going, this is so strange, or the Chipmunks and but that original audition, I remember in my mind that was one of the ones where I really had a sense of what I wanted to do with that character and what I was trying to create vocally, with intention. And so when I booked the job, I was sort of like, oh, that was one of those ones that I didn't just walk in a room, create a sound, do something, and then be like, okay, walk away from that one. I was sort of like, I did craft like a persona for him without knowing very much. Like there wasn't much to go on. You get a few lines, and so, but I remember thinking that, like, wanting him to be sort of this, and I think it was also because at the time I was doing quite a few different things, and I was sort of like, oh, this would be really fun to play a very different character than I get to do in a lot of the other video games and animated shows that I was doing at the time in Los Angeles, so I was really happy to book that job for that reason, so that I could play that kind of character and delve into that kind of, mentality. And then what was fascinating is the recording sessions were really interesting because we'd have the director with a person representing the company from Japan in the room, but then we'd also be linked audio-wise to the producers and people back in Japan who are the creators of the game, so that they could also explain to the directors. So I'd be like in the session, we'd do a pass of something, and then all of a sudden I'd hear like people speaking in Japanese and like explaining stuff, and then I'd have to wait for the translation for them to explain it to me in English, and you know what I mean, and give me like background stuff and to what's going on in the scene and what it means in terms of the context of the overall game, or and so that was a really fun process. I mean, nowadays, now we do stuff and everybody's linked in all at once. We're all over Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Or, I'll be literally down the hallway in my studio in my apartment, on my headsets recording, and like everybody's there. You're talking all at once, and now technology is so much more advanced. But when we first started the game, it was like waiting for delay for people to give the information from Japan, and the translator, then they'd give it to me, and
oh my god, my anxiety could never. I'd be sitting there like, did I fuck this up? Like, did I?
Nah, that's the beauty of like when you're hired. If I'll never forget one of the first directors I worked with in Toronto. A legend in the biz, John Bell. He was one of the original directors for SCTV. I don't know if you guys are familiar with SCTV. It's sort of like the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live.
Oh, okay.
Martin Short started there. Andrew Martin, John Candy, Eugene Levy.
Wow.
So many legendary comedic people that went on to do Saturday Night Live, and and so many huge shows. They started there, and John was an original director. And I remember him saying, we'd done a few projects together, and we were working on something. And I remember saying, man, you're such a great director. You really, understand. You really know how to communicate to actors and whatever. And he said, that's all smoke and mirrors. He's like, honestly, the one thing that really I get paid to do is cast correctly. He's like, if I pick the right actors, if I pick the right person who understands the vision that I have, he's like, then all I have to do is set the camera and say, go do what you do. You be brilliant. And then I just go, I put a light here, put the camera here, and makes you look great. And so when you've been cast correctly, it's just fun. It's just playtime. It's like being a little kid. You've got your GI Joes, and you're playing, it's make believe, and then you're just waiting for people to say, hey, this is what we're thinking. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? It's just, there's no wrong or right. There's just like, if they've cast you and they believe that you're the right sound for that character and you're bringing the right persona and ideas, then it's just playtime. It's like just like I said earlier, it's like Robin Hood. You're pulling out different arrows, going, oh, I'll try this, and it's so fun when you do a pass, and then everybody goes, yeah, that's the one that resonates, and and then you see the scene played back, and you go, oh man, that's great. Like you really feel the whole thing come to life, which is so fun.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about the possibility of those recording sessions. Like that has to be some of the most fun recording ever. But I'm thinking of you delivering these lines. Okay, when I hear Zexion talk and I just hear this long, calculated, logical monologue, and then just Goofy chiming in on the end of it like, gosh, I would lose my mind.
You'd have to wait. You'd be like, I gotta hold in my laugh.
Yeah, what's interesting too with animation, and especially video games like stuff like that we do, we are often by ourselves, right? So I never actually, unless they've sort of recorded those people first.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, we're not all in the same room together. So sometimes, like a lot of times with the stuff I did for Kingdom Hearts, they recorded a lot of the main characters in advance and stuff. So there'd be times where I'd actually hear those characters' sounds when they they'd show you the scene before we'd actually go in for takes, because it's dubbing as well, right? It's originally recorded in Japan. But there's also times where sometimes it's just a space holder. So it's like the editor or the video game director just voicing the characters so that you can hear, or you'll hear the Japanese artist. You know what I mean? And so you don't actually hear the American versions. You know, and then
Right.
you go in all by yourself. There's nothing else. You don't hear anything else as you're recording. But then sometimes before I'll leave the session, they'll have some of the other things that is already edited in, and then they'll layer in the take they like the best. And then you actually kind of get to see sort of and hear, like I'll hear Goofy, or you'll hear, the other characters. But yeah, that's one of the weird things about doing animation and doing video games, is that sometimes, well, not sometimes, 90% of the time you are by yourself.
Oh, that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Now that I think about
I like how like your brain went to like, oh my god, and then I'd have to hear Goofy, and my brain is just like, damn, I could only imagine being a Kingdom Hearts voice actor and getting a clip of the story because I know the whole story,
Yeah.
and just being like, what am I recording? What is going on in this game?
Hi, yes, director, I'd like to clarify literally everything. Thank you.
I will say, the very first game, the time I did played Zexion, I remember that walking out of that first session, I can't remember the name of the studio, but it was in Burbank. And I remember walking out of the session, getting into my car and sitting there going, I don't know what I did. Like, I don't really know if I understood half of what they told me about what's going on, because they would explain scenes and I'd be like, okay, sure. I think I got what we're doing here. And then, you do a pass and they'd be like, that's it. That's the one. And you'd be like, thank God. I have no clue what I'm understanding. I don't understand at all what's happening in this game.
You now know what it feels like to play Kingdom Hearts for the first time. So
I would say that's the experience you've had
I
of me
remember-
being like, okay, so this is Kingdom Hearts, and this is Zexion, who's my favorite character, and he does this and this and this, and then you sit down to play it, and you're like, Rayne, what the fuck?
Rayne is saying all this to me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to get over this hippo. Like, I just need to get to the next part of the level, please.
Yeah. Because I remember when the first game with like Zexion like having a voice actor came out, because that game was originally on the Game Boy, so there was no voice acting, and me sitting there with stars in my eyes just being like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Everyone must be so confused about the story.
Oh my god.
It's a confusing game.
Yeah, it's pretty layered. It's like it's like the new Knives Out Glass Onion movie where you go, it's like a crazy onion with so many layers where you just go, what is happening? Now I remember that the first, and then as we did future recordings and stuff, I understood it. I talked to fans. I'm not a game player myself. I don't play video games. I do love watching animation and animated movies and shows and stuff, but I'm not a gamer, so I've never actually played any of the games that I've watched.
You literally lived them, though. I think you get a pass for that.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun thing, right? Is that you go. Although there is times where sometimes I'll see a cut scene like on YouTube or something, or somebody will come to a convention or whatever, and and be like, oh, do you remember this? And they'll play me the scene, and I'll be like, oh my god, completely forgot about it. And then you hear your own voice, and you're like, oh yeah, I do remember recording that. Right. I remember that scene now. I remember what happened, but no recollection because, you do it in the moment, you live it, you play it, you do a bunch of different takes, and then you're on to the next one. And, because you've got like 2 hours to record 50 lines or whatever it is. And so your brain just doesn't have time to dwell on, oh, that was cool, or that's what that scene was about. You're like, now you're on to new information. You're like, this next scene is about this. And you're like, okay, try to understand it, try to process, dial in the detail, create the world in your mind so that you can bring that to life for the audience. But yeah, I mean, it's such a layered game. It's very cool.
That's awesome.
And I don't know how to ask this, so I'm just going to word vomit till the question gets there, because I tried to write it out and I was like, this looks dumb. But from my experience of being the game player, I didn't think that Zexion was gonna have this whole comeback as Ienzo. And so
Yeah.
did you was that like a big, I don't know, like surprise to be like, oh, hey, by the way, we're bringing your character back, but like not really, but yes.
Yeah, no, I remember going to the session and nobody, because I was just the character. So I remember showing up at the first time to record Ienzo, and I remember them pre-sending the script so that I could, they would email us a PDF so that you could read through it and kind of get a sense. I remember thinking, what's this Ienzo dude? Like, I was like, I don't understand. Like, it was so confusing to me. And then I realized, oh, he's the good character. And actually, I love that whole storyline where that all of us have like an X, for Organization 13, right? In our name. So it's the Ienzo, but Zex, it's all
it's
jumbled
the
up.
X, yeah.
Right, without the Zexion, right? I was like, oh, that's really clever. And like, it's our, excuse me if I get this wrong, fans, please don't hate me, but it's like our shadow version, you know what I mean? It's the alternate, like where, that was a fascinating thing and fun to play too. All of a sudden, with very little preparation, I was like, what's happening? I don't understand. This is his good guy. There's a good version of him. I didn't. So that was cool. And then to have a secondary life in the game and a new story that you get to tell where you're now I'm part of the good crew helping the good guys out, to succeed and and getting to interact again, like I said, with some of these classic Disney characters, which was so fun to me. It was just like as a little it takes me right back to being 6, 7, 8 years old and watching, Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights and, and watching Sport Goofy and those guys. I mean, I was such a Goofy fan when I was a little kid. He was one of my favorite characters of all time. So that was very cool. That was a very cool, melding of worlds and then next step in that character's evolution. And I think fans love it too. Fans love to see stories evolve like that, and what was clever is they could have brought in somebody else to voice Ienzo, but it's clever because then it has my natural undertones, my own tonality and timbre in my voice playing Ienzo, which is a brighter. He's still got that little bit of rasp, but he's much more, pleasant and has more of a nicer side to him.
Everything doesn't suck yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm no longer trying to ruin your life.
Exactly. He's not pulling strings in a manipulative way. Now he's pulling strings in a how can I be helpful way, which is a fun thing too, to explore.
Yeah. I'm going to out myself. I literally sat there when Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out and I was like, I wonder if Ienzo's going to get like a happy ending because that's all I want. And then like you get to the end and he's like helping everybody and I like was sobbing and tweeting and I was like, all I wanted was this and I got it and I'm the best because my best character is living his best life now and he's so helpful. Amazing. And then the next game came out and they were like, oh, by the way, like my friend was like, your boy has lines in this. And I was like, what?
Didn't he like make Instagram in that game?
Yes, he did make Instagram. He made FaceTime and Instagram and the iPhone just for Kingdom Hearts.
Ienzo be Steve Jobs out here? What? Like
Ienzo, the god.
Genius.
He's
Absolutely.
amazing. Like
cerebral.
Yeah.
He's the guy with the brains.
He's the guy.
So
what
cool.
is it in Spider? I want to be the guy at the desk. That's
oh
him.
yeah,
He
the
got
guy
to
at
be
the desk. Absolutely.
The guy at the desk. I think we're
as Sam Rockwell said in Galaxy Quest. He's like, I'm the plucky comic relief. I'm for sure gonna die. I'm the secondary character. I'm not gonna live.
And then they're like, no, we love you too much. You're making Instagram and being happy about it, damn it.
The guy with the brains who sits behind the desk, he pretty much always guaranteed to make it to the end.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so crazy. I also love the idea that like you get to experience the story in a similar way that we all do, where like you don't know about it beforehand. And like, I could just imagine getting that script and be like, oh my God, he's so cool now. All right, let's do this. Like, I just, that's so cool. Like,
I will say, sometimes when we do new installments, I still get the script. Like, I'll get it, a couple days before, or like, I'll know the recording session is going to be on a Monday or Tuesday. They'll send it to me on a Thursday or Friday. I'll read it over and I'll still be like, they're going to need to fill in some blanks here, because all you're sent is your scenes. Like, I'm not sent the whole script, so you get your scenes, you read through it, and you go, okay, I can generally get an idea of what my motivation is in here. But in terms of the context of the story, I go, no, I have no clue what's going on. So then you get to the session and they're like, okay, here's what's happening in the game. Here's the greater storyline, so that you have a sense of, and now you have your scene and what's your motivation within the scene. What is it you're trying to accomplish? But yeah, it's such a layered universe that, even when they send stuff, I'm still like, what is happening?
that is eerily similar to how we do this podcast.
Oh, exactly. We just show up to the podcast.
Like, there's some episodes where I'm sitting here like, okay, you guys are really going to have to take this. I have no idea what's going on.
We're all going to agree on what we do this week. Also us. All right, Colton, sit down. I'm talking. It's my turn. But you're just on the same page as all the Kingdom Hearts fans, because I've played the game how many times and I still don't know what's going on. And I sit there and I'm like, yep, I love this. This is my favorite game in the entire world. And then someone will be like, oh, what's this thing mean? And I'm like, don't ask questions.
I remember watching you stream it. And like, you're like, oh yeah, no, I don't know why this happens. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, you've played this 20 times. How do you not know what this is?
Because they're not at the point where they're going to explain it yet in the story. Kingdom Hearts 4, they'll explain everything else probably.
Hopefully we'll get to Kingdom Hearts 20. That's what I hope. That's my fingers crossed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, imagine.
I'm waiting for my game. There's one game where Zexion was playable, and then they never did it again, and now I'm sitting here going, Kingdom Hearts 4, Ienzo playable, all I want. And I got what I wanted the first time. I'll get it again.
Message. Tweet it out, Instagram it out to the creators, yeah.
Absolutely.
Make him playable. Let me live my life.
I love playing that character. He's fun. He's a lot of fun. He is a lot of fun. I'd love to voice Zexion again too. I always loved that manipulated those long scenes. All my words were like stretched out. I was always like, hello. It's not just simple hello. It's like, hello, Marluxia. Hello. Like, nice to see you again.
I mean, there were talks of a Kingdom Hearts anime, so maybe.
Ooh, okay.
There were talks of that, so that is a very
that'd be cool. Movie or a series, that'd be fun. That'd be really fun.
It needs one. It like, because people like look at Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is one of the most notoriously long and dense games I've ever heard of. And I remember we did a Kingdom Hearts podcast.
We've done several.
We did several, and I remember I'm like, okay, so while I'm at work, I'll just watch like a playthrough of the whole game. I'll kind of get a grasp on it. It won't be a total comprehensive grasp, but I think I could bang this out like if I watch it throughout my whole shift. I pulled up a video. It was a 24-hour video. I'm like, excuse me.
Wasn't that just the first game?
That was the first game, and Rayne's like, yeah, no, I've tried to warn you.
Wow, that is intense. I mean, I've watched cutscenes and stuff like that, like of the characters, but I never sit through the whole thing. It's quite dense. I think people would love it. I mean, I have to say, just for me, even at my age, I go, I love that layering of different worlds and different decades of nostalgic characters, of legendary characters like Mickey and Goofy.
Crossovers are always fun.
Yeah, and then to see them in scenarios and situations that are not what we've traditionally seen them in throughout history. That's kind of cool. I could see it becoming a hit for sure. But I mean, Disney is not like any of us are going to question Disney. They know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
They knocked that out of the park.
We do have that little weird in with Nintendo now where Sora's in Smash Brothers. So like, I would love to see like a Kingdom Hearts, like a whole Kingdom Hearts world, like maybe in 4 where like a DLC world where they have Nintendo characters in it, which would be crazy.
I'm so glad you went there. I just thought Kingdom Hearts Smash and like you could have the organization character. That's where I went. I was like, oh man, I'd love a fighting game like that.
We need less sword characters in Smash, so maybe Zexion should make it in there. Like,
let him fight with his book.
Right
now.
Yeah, exactly. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
That would be great.
Rayne, do you have any closing questions? Because I just
do.
looked at the time and I'm like, oh sweet Jesus.
Yeah, we have been chatting it up. My last question was, do you have any dream role, like a character or anything that you specifically are like, that is the goal?
No, I think I've never really been like that. I mean, other than, you know, as an actor and an artist, you just want to always stretch yourself, try new things, play different characters, and you know, so I can't say that there's any dream role. I just, you know, I mean, there's dream genres, or not even dream wouldn't be the right thing. There's different types of genres and styles and characters that you know you want to play. I mean, I've never got to play a cowboy. I've always wanted to do something like that, like ride a horse and, you know, do something like that. Just because I love horses and you know, I used to ride when I was younger. But no, I can't really say that there's any specific dream role. You know, I love it all, and I've been lucky to do theater. I've been lucky to do plays, musicals, film, TV. I've played good guys, bad guys. You know, animation, video games. I love voicing commercials. I love doing narration. I love narrating documentaries. Those are fun too. So yeah, there's no specific thing. I just hope that I get to keep doing and creating and you know, and hoping that people that watch it like it and they're appreciative and think that I, you know, it was a good job. That's all you wish for.
I do have one more question. When you brought up you played good guys and bad guys, which is more fun?
I get that a lot. People always say
it's villains, isn't it?
You know, it's interesting. What's cool about villains is that you often are going to get to explore and create and play things that in your normal life you're never really going to do. I mean, no one thinks of themselves as a villain. Even there's horrible people out there in this world, you know, but they don't think that they're bad people when they're doing what they're doing. So, you know, in life, all of us think we're good people, or we're doing good things. And so, when you get to play, especially outrageous villains, like really crazy characters and stuff like that, you get to delve into things that you're never going to really experience in real life. And so it's all about imagination and so that's, I think, really what makes playing a villain fun, is that you get to do stuff that you'll never physically do in real life or imagine. But I can't say I love one more than the other. That's, you know, just the only reason why a lot of people often answer that we enjoy the villains more is because of that. As an artist, you want to create, you want to try new things and do different stuff. And so villains tend to give you the opportunity to do that. That's when you get to do the things that are very different that you normally don't do. Whereas a hero is typically the character that is the audience is going to relate to the most, is going to have a lot of the struggles that you as a person, you go, right, I understand that character, and I'm rooting for this character because I feel those things, or I've experienced those things, and that's why they're the heroes. They're the people that we root for. And so a lot of times in life, when I played heroes, I go, right, that's like, that happened to me. And so I've already kind of experienced that, and that's, you know, then you bring that to the thing. Whereas in a villain, you go, oh, I'm about to murder this person, and you go, I've never murdered anybody. So
can't relate.
I hope I never will. I'm doing the best in life to avoid that ever happening. So, you know, but in this moment, I get to kind of explore what might that be like if I did? What would my intention be? What would my motivation be? What would I be thinking in that moment? And then you get to walk away and go, I didn't. I'm a good person.
Just letting you guys know this is not experience.
Yeah. But
Sitting
I know
in your
how
car.
twisted.
Oh,
Right, but I know
never.
the twisted. Right,
They got
but
the
you're sitting
phone
there
with
going, I know the
911.
twisted thoughts I was having. I know the weird stuff that I was thinking when I was thinking, oh, that's what I would do if I was doing that in real life, you know. And so that you get to dive into those kinds of things. That's what makes playing a villain kind of a little more fun. But I can't say that I like one or the other better. You know, just enjoy the work, really.
I just imagine you coming out of the booth like after Kingdom Hearts 1 Zexion, just like, oh, I'm gonna cram those intrusive thoughts back in there. Just let me get those in there.
Are not evil. Just slamming it back in.
Oh, that's
amazing.
awesome. Thank you so much for the time. This was
thank
awesome.
you.
No problem. No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Of
It
course.
was really fun.
And when we
And
do,
you guys are New Yorkers, right? You guys
absolutely.
are in New York?
Yep.
Right on. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for giving us the
much.
time.
I'll say a quick little goodbye from Zexion again. There it is.
Yes,
Yay.
absolutely.
I love it so much.
With his hand. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Oh my god. Have a great day.
Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. You
Thank
guys be
you.
well.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.